We're going to be doing Girl with the Pearl Earring. This is going to be a relatively fast sketch, so it's not going to be perfect, but I think it's going to come out pretty well. I've done this particular portrait as a copy several times, and it is always a satisfying portrait to do. Now, you're going to notice that I'm going to use the scribble technique a little bit more here, as opposed to the technique of cross-hatching that I've talked about before in videos. And this is simply because of the time that I'm going to be spending on the drawing. If I really wanted to do a very detailed and exacting version of this, I would probably be doing cross-hatching. But cross-hatching, where it's doing one direction and then the other direction on top of it, like making little X shapes, is something that actually takes a little bit longer. And again, I don't want this to take forever. At least not today. Now you're going to notice, as I'm doing a picture like this, that it comes out very sketchy looking at first, but it slowly but surely turns out to be less sketchy looking. And you may ask yourself, why? Why does this technique start off looking sketchy, but then as time goes along, it seems to become less and less sketchy to the eye? It seems kind of strange, but what happens is, as you go through and you continuously make lines, your eye starts to blend things together a bit, and your eye starts to get kind of tricked into thinking that everything is smoother, because at a certain point there are going to be so many lines in this particular work that your eye just starts to kind of make everything come together into one. And it's a cool trick that artists learned thousands of years ago and have kind of utilized since. The good thing about our eyes are that our eyes tend to get overloaded, and so you can do this kind of sketchier technique and your eye kind of buys it. Now, one suggestion that I have for a lot of people is to practice from time to time using things like pen as opposed to things like a pencil or something where you can go back and erase. And I know that scares a lot of people, because when you are using something like a pen, you feel like if you make a mistake, you're stuck. But the good thing about using something like a pen is that it teaches you to work quickly and confidently, and you also realize that if you make mistakes, a lot of the times you can go back and still fix it. For example, if I made the eye a little bit too big, I could always kind of darken in up here and shade in a bit, and it would kind of fix it to a degree. Actually, I'm looking at this right now, and I made her lips a little bit too low. So I'm going to bring it up just ever so slightly. Now, is it absolutely perfect if you do something like that? No, you're going to make a little mistakes, but it makes you more confident. It makes you more competent, too. And you'll find over the course of time that you'll make less and less mistakes, and that your drawings will become a little bit less stiff-looking if you practice with things like pen, something that's more permanent. Not every drawing is going to be a masterpiece. And if you want to be a good artist, you just kind of get over the fact that sometimes it's not going to be perfect. And it's okay. Not everything is always going to come out just as good as everything else, and that's all right. Now, sometimes I use like a marker to kind of juxtapose the pen that I'm using. And so I have one much darker color kind of blending in with the other. Today, though, I'm just using the pen here. But I really think that it's a cool technique to have one color that's much darker and then one color that's a little bit lighter. So like a lighter black here and then the much darker black of a marker. It kind of creates a cool effect. Just something to think about trying. I must also admit that my marker is dead because I've been using that technique a lot recently. So that's part of the reason why you're not seeing a marker today. I just don't have one. One of the things that really makes Girl with the Pearl Earring such a fantastic piece is the immediacy of her stare and the fact that there isn't a whole lot of other things going on in this particular picture. In fact, there's virtually nothing else. She's just kind of wearing her little outfit that maybe distracts your eye a little bit, but in general, there is nothing else going on. It's not like there is any real background to this particular piece. It's not like this particular piece has a strong sense of place or history. It's pretty much just her really intense stare, and that's it. And so it really draws you in to her and just makes you study her. And it kind of gives the effect, too, that she's studying you, which I think is one of the cool things about this particular piece. I feel like she's looking at me and kind of figuring my face out just as much as I'm looking at her and doing hers. I know that may sound strange to some people. Maybe it is, but I think that the fact that there's nothing else going on is a benefit to this particular picture. I don't like pictures that are overly busy with too much stuff going on because they typically tend to be a little bit less psychological than this particular picture is. Now, you don't want to, when you're using something like pen, you don't want to leave areas that are super duper unshaded. Like over here, I'm going to just go ahead and add in just little bits of lines, because if you go from like nothing to a bunch of stuff, your eye is going to be fooled less. You want to make sure that you at least give a little bit of something in those areas that just kind of fill them up and trick the eye just ever so slightly. That everything's blended together, even though this is not a terribly blended picture. All right, and like I said, if you go through here and go, well, you know, that's not exactly correct, yeah, you're probably right. But I'm just doing this as a fast sketch here for you guys, so it's not going to be absolutely 100% perfect. One thing that you may want to try if you are trying to become an artist is doing a series of works. A lot of artists will do the same subject matter kind of over and over again, and doing the same subject matter over and over again helps you to get better, and after a while you kind of have learned your subject, and you can draw it faster. Like, for example, I've done Girl with the Pearl here several times, so I almost kind of, to a degree, have her image kind of etched into my brain. It's not like it's a really new thing to draw her. And I kind of, my mind kind of remembers to a degree where things are, so I can kind of move more quickly. But there are other benefits, though, to this type of approach. You can do it with different types of materials, and you can kind of compare one material to another, which is kind of cool. There's also the benefit of being able to do it in different lights. So you may do one version of this really kind of light, one kind of dark, one that has a little bit more shading, one with a little bit less, and it's just kind of cool to compare and contrast the different versions together. Monet, I'm sorry, not, Monet, yeah, that one. I always get Monet and Manet mixed up at first, but Monet did a series of lily ponds when he was doing his art, and the funny thing is he just would do thousands and thousands and thousands of drawings of the same subject, which to a degree may seem a little boring, but it's kind of cool in retrospect looking back now, and for art historians, because they can kind of see it's like they have year-round versions of these lily ponds that he has, because he did so many different takes on this particular subject. And so it's almost like he has his own documentary created of his own stretch of land. Again, you want to try to look at the way that the person's skin is moving. For example, in the picture here, her up here around her cheeks, it kind of moves up, and then there's a flatness area around the eyes up here. So I'm going to kind of observe that, where the lines are kind of going up, and then they kind of go down around here, because that is the direction of the skin. Just by following the direction of where the skin is going, it just helps to kind of create the illusion that it's real. And again, I'm not going to have time to do every last detail here, because I want to make sure that this is not the world's longest video. Keep it to like 15 to 20 minutes. But in general, I think you're getting the idea. Another cool thing about Girl with the Pearl Earring is that it is both a portrait, it's a portrait, it's a character study, and it is also a little bit of dress up. This is not really somebody, this is not the kind of thing that somebody during that particular age, during the 1600s in Dutch territories, this is not the kind of thing that they would be wearing. The girl with the pearl earring here is basically just wearing a costume. At that time, it was a popular thing, and the whole costume thing is getting popular again here. My phone keeps shutting off. It's kind of annoying. People are doing the whole kind of cosplay thing, and this whole type of thing is actually getting fairly popular right now. But back then, it was a very big thing to kind of get dressed up and have your portrait taken in kind of an exotic thing. And the fact that she's wearing this kind of exotic-looking turban kind of helps to make her even more mysterious. It kind of helps, I think. May not be totally true to who this person was, but it certainly helps to add to the mystery of her person, at least in my opinion. It's going to get harder down here without taking the time to do a lot of cross hatching. Because if you do cross hatching and I slowly build this area up, I could make this area very, very dark. But because I'm doing a scribbling technique here, it's a little harder to get it as dark. But again, it's just a fast drawing, and you guys get the point. At least I hope you do. The particular picture I chose here kind of cuts off up there. This is kind of where her little, the back of her bandana thing comes down, but whatever, turban, whatever you want to call it, but whatever. As you see, the picture I picked here kind of cuts off. Why did I do that? I don't know. I didn't really think this through before I started making the video, but you know, live you learn. By the way, I've had some people ask me, what is the benefit of having somebody that is modeled in real life as opposed to just having a picture that's taken on your phone or something like that? And there is a definite benefit to sketching from a live model. One, sometimes you capture a moment when the person is giving you a really cool pose, and if you just take a picture, you might miss those little moments. A second thing is, if you make a small little mistake, like let's say you put the eye too high, you can just have them kind of change their head position and maybe adjust the drawing without having to redo the whole thing. That's another benefit. Another benefit, though, also to drawing in real life is it teaches you to not be overly precious and to move a little bit faster, because people don't stay still forever. So it does kind of spurn you along a little bit. Last, but of course not least, if the person is there in real life, you can interact with the person and maybe capture little parts of their personality. And I don't know, maybe they do something which inspires you to add a little detail into the work. And I just think it kind of makes it more personal. Anyway, I think this is close enough, good enough for now. And again, is this perfect? No. If I go back and I look at it, there's going to be little things. I could probably, proportionally, I don't know, her ear should be slightly further over now that I look at it. Kind of more like this. Maybe made her ear just a little bit too far over. And I maybe made this area a bit darker than it is over here. But in general, it's pretty darn close. And I think it looks kind of interesting. And it's definitely not just a straight up copy where I traced it or something. I feel like I did something on my own by just looking at it and moving quickly, and I don't feel like I'm just doing a copy. I feel like this is a little bit more personal because I didn't try to do it exacting and use little cheats. So anyway, pick up a pen, give it a shot, try to make drawings on your own. Try to do them relatively quickly sometimes to make yourself a little faster and to make yourself a bit more confident, and to also pull you away from the trap of just kind of tracing and copying somebody else. You know, put your own little stamp on it. Hopefully this is helpful to you, and hopefully you will continue the Art Smart.